There we go.
It's recording.
All right. Before I kick things off, let me go ahead and read the antitrust. No participant shall be allowed to discuss any subject relating to prices charged, discounts offered of any nature, hourly rate, employee benefits, or agreements made with third-party entities. Should any discussion of these items take place, said participant will be asked to refrain immediately, disregarding any pursuant discussion, and should said party deny such request, the meeting will be immediately disbanded. All participants are herewith notified that the materials presented are not to be construed as information or direction to take concerted actions. Information can be utilized by individuals acting within their own judgment, making sound business decisions without agreements and other participants of this meeting. This notice is hereby read with regard to the laws governing this conduct. We always put this frame up in remembrance of the great John Mosley, who passed away this year. He is sadly missed. He's one of the founders of the Mississippi Collision Repairs Association. And he was on the board of SCRS. So we always want to give a shout out. These are our board members, our executive board members, with an added change for 2024. Robbie Wyndham, president. Michael Butler is our vice president for next year. Shay Knight, treasurer, and Frank Renato as secretary. Members at large, James Steed, Chad Smith, Walt Silman. Again, Michael Butler is now vice president. Marilyn Bolden, Danny McCarley, Elmer Piquet, John Comble Jr. Of course, we want to thank our level 1 sponsors for 2023. This will be their final meeting as sponsors unless they renew for next year, which I'm excited to say that so far Tasco and Birds will be renewing as level 1 sponsors for next year. I have not spoken with All Clear, and Mike and Jerry's is deciding. And of course, we're looking for additional sponsors for next year. With that being said, I will let Tony Yesso introduce himself. He's from W&M Sales and Service and All Clear Diagnostics.
And Dynamic Automotive Solutions. Got a third company now, Josh. We are a mobile diagnostic and calibration company based out of the southeastern United States. Started in 2014. We are Ford OEM certified, GM OEM certified. Our technicians are iCar ADAS, iCar electrical and diag, iCar mechanical. We're also working on the iCar EV course, but that's something we have to spread out because it's in Chicago. Everybody knows about that. Right now, we're touching about 325 vehicles a day. We work in 13 different states. Being that we perform ADAS calibrations on a day-to-day basis, you guys are fully aware some of the manufacturers don't make every tool out there. So we came up with some tools and got a few patents. We have a remote diagnostic unit. We also have a ADAS fixture similar to John Beam that holds OEM targeting. If I'm not mistaken, we service most of your areas right now. We don't have a huge presence in the downtown New Orleans area or Kenner, but we are in Slidell right now. We are servicing the Mississippi Gulf Coast and all the way through Jackson and Hattiesburg and all that stuff. Louisiana, we're in Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Monroe, Shreveport, and Lake Charles. That's all I got, Josh.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate your support, and hopefully we'll see you guys in 2024 as well.
Oh, and our booth at SEMA is in the Upper South Hall. Our booth number is 32185.
Awesome. Tony's excited. It's his first year having a booth at SEMA. So congratulations, Tony.
Yeah, I've been a spectator all these years. Now I'm a vendor.
It's going to be a wild time, I'm sure. And then of course, Tasco Auto Color is our other level 1 sponsor, and we do have somebody on here. Jonna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. This is my first time to get on this. I thought Jeff was on here. I just got the email late this afternoon, jumped on. I do the Texas, Louisiana markets, and I really wasn't even sure what we were doing, but I'm on here and I'm glad to be. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And thank you for Tasco for being our sponsor. We do have a level 2 sponsor, which is Overnight Parts Alliance. They've agreed to be a level 1 sponsor in 2024. So super excited about that. And then, of course, thanks to all of our vendor partners, Aztec, Collision Advice, English Color and Supply, Keystone, Carliner, Pro Color, AAMS, Principled Payments, Auto Video Engage, and Auto World Supply Company. Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Rutterson with Principal Payments. We do merchant services. We save y'all money. 15% of the profits go back to the Gulf States Collision Association. If anyone wants a free rate comparison with their credit cards, I'm happy to do that. What is really popular now in North Carolina, where I am, is they're passing the cost to the customer on all credit cards, but not debit cards. That's like giving yourself essentially a 3% raise. Any questions for me?
Awesome.
We put in writing the rate will never
all
go
the
up.
customers, all your customers are passing it on to the consumer?
A lot of the business owners are doing that, not all of them, but there's definitely a trend and an increase in doing that because the cost of everything else is going up. So a lot more business owners are doing it now than say 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
But either way, we put in writing the rate will never go up for life.
Principal Payment has been a great partner for the associations that I'm a part of. CCA has reaped most of the benefits, but we definitely want to get more people to use their services because, again, they support the association. So, again, we don't have a lot of shops on here this evening, but for anybody watching later on, as a member, like I said, we get residuals as an association. So supporting the people that support us is very, very important. So the information is on our website. So you can click on it to get more information and to receive a free quote. Their customer service is excellent as well. Her boss, I don't know, Jennifer's your boss, right?
I call her my boss. She's my mentor, but yeah, boss is fine.
Yeah, Jennifer's fantastic. So, and Laura does a great job as well. So, thank you. Auto Video Engage, Auto World Supply Company. So again, without our vendors, we don't have an association. Committees, we're hard at work committee-wise for the association. We have a consumer committee, which right now we have put out 4 consumer educational videos for the free for the shops to use on their social media, use inside their shops. However they choose to use the videos, you get them for free. And also our shops have the option of adding their company logos to these videos, which I'm going to show here in a few minutes. And then it has your shop logo on there as well. It's like $130 cost. These videos are for members only. So if you're a non-member, you got to join to get. So we also have a legal committee. Anybody who is a member, it's not just board members, it's for anyone who's a member who'd like to be on the legal committee. We talk all things legalities, whether it's legislation to policy language, where we have some big projects for 2024 that we're going to be adding to the website. So we hope to be really productive next year. We have a trade school committee. Robbie is not the chair. It is, as of now, Jeremy Files. Trade school, like it says, we deal with everything trade school, and we got some big projects for next year lined up. So, we stay very busy, and we try to give all of, we have 32 members in the past 2 years, which is really good, up from 6 when I took it over. So we're climbing the board, super excited for what next year holds. Benefits to being a member for anyone who's a non-member. We get vendor discounts. You get discounts to all GSCA events, and you get a code of ethics plaque. And soon we'll have stickers for our members to receive as well, to put on their doors or windows or wherever. Most important, the company of industry professionals who have had or still have the same issues that you have. Matt, I was waiting to see you start shaking your head, throwing up the signs. I mean, that is your video. So, Matt, would you like to introduce us to Cars Co-op? You got to take yourself off mute to talk, though. There you go. No. There you go.
Okay, I'm off. Well, I don't know what else to say. If you all were speed readers, you got it all. So that's a challenge with that. I'm gonna get them to slow that down a little bit. But I'm Matt Boyles, Executive Director of Cars Cooperative, and we have an alliance agreement with Gulf States and several other associations, and we provide benefit package, if you will, for you to participate or choose not to participate. It's whatever fits your business model, if you will. And we have multiple value advantage programs that you can receive cashback rewards, discounts, and cars pricing on. And we actually cut you a quarterly check every quarter. You saw an example of the check. Our average check right now, and that is legitimate, is right at $590 to the average member. But we are now in 38 states with 1,688 independent auto body shops locations. And we, in essence, go out and negotiate purchasing agreements, benefit packages, and put these programs together for you to benefit from. And I would encourage you to go to cars.coop and look at our marketplace and look at the programs we have if you haven't already involved. Now, this Activate Today is if you haven't filled out what we now call our benefit form, we need to simply have a conversation with you to find out what you're currently already participating in, because you may be purchasing DeVilbiss, which we're just launching. We now have a cashback reward on their products, and you may already be doing business with them, but you're already buying their product, but we don't know that. That's all that simply, we need to have a conversation between us so we know what you're already doing or what you may have an interest in. We're here to serve you as a benefit of the association. And I appreciate those of you that are already participating. And again, it's supporting us so we can support you. Thank you, Josh, for the time.
Thank you, Matt. All right. Move forward. Okay. With that, we'll do, whoa, I'm way ahead of schedule there. Closing remarks. You guys are ready to go home? You guys are already at home. Hold on.
Already at home.
My goodness. Operator error. Whoa, don't want to. All right, moving on to some of the videos that we have put together as an association. I'm going to go ahead and start with the diminished value video.
If your vehicle has been involved in an accident, how much its worth will be impacted. This is known as diminished value. Even if repaired and restored fully, your vehicle may not be worth the same as it was before your accident. However, a diminished value claim could help you restore some of your lost value.
We highly recommend using a professional diminished value appraiser for a fair settlement. A simple internet search or speaking with your trusted collision facility for a referral may help you find the right appraiser for you.
There are 3 types of diminished value to be aware of that can help you understand your situation. Immediate diminished value is what your vehicle is worth right after your accident, before any repairs have taken place. Inherent diminished value, the most commonly used form, is how much value your vehicle has lost by being in an accident. Finally, repair-related diminished value is evaluating the worth of your vehicle based on the quality of repairs completed and the notion that your car is no longer in its original condition.
There are a few things to consider to make sure filing a diminished value claim is worth it for you. What was your vehicle worth before the accident? Older or less valuable vehicles often don't receive the payout that you may expect. Other factors that may affect your eligibility could be how recently the accident occurred, who assumed fault for the accident, the other driver's insurance status, and the state where the accident occurred. Consult with an experienced professional to find out if filing a diminished value claim is the right step for you.
Oops. What is going on, man? Get off of this.
You can choose where to.
Sorry, this thing's got a mind of its own, or it's operator error big time. We can play that one.
Choose where to take your vehicle for collision repairs. So how do you pick which collision repair facility is right for you? Look for quality, safety, integrity, and service when deciding where to take your vehicle for repair.
When it comes to your car, quality is everything. You know that repairs are getting done properly when a shop uses original equipment parts. One thing to keep in mind, your repair facility warranties the repair.
You also know that a quality collision repair center puts your safety first. Safe collision repairs are conducted by qualified, trained technicians and shops who follow manufacturer's repair procedures on all vehicles, no matter the damage.
Another great way to choose a collision repair facility is by their reputation. Online reviews and others' experiences give you insight on the shop's integrity. You want a collision repair facility you can trust.
Trustworthy collision repair centers make their customers feel confident about their experience. Find a professional that communicates transparently and keeps you informed during your vehicle's collision repair.
You deserve quality, safety, integrity, and service for your vehicle's repair. Find the right collision center for you.
All right, let's see if I can, there we go. Oops.
Confusing time.
Oh my goodness.
Confusing time. A tough and confusing time.
All right. Please excuse my inadequacies here. All right, let's move forward. All right, so on to, again, we got a massive 2024 planned. We're looking to grow, you know, get much bigger than we are currently, just so everyone knows. We have about 50 members in total. And that's 30 shops that are members of GSCA. We're still a fairly new association. So we definitely have made growth this year, and we hope to continue to grow next year. for those of you that like to go to collision conferences, the Southeast Collision Conference has chosen their dates for their next conference, which is May 16th through the 18th in Greensboro, North Carolina. For those of you interested, it'll be a 2.5-day event. The first day is an award show, and then our conference is on Friday and Saturday. So that's May 16th through the 18th. Be on the lookout for those emails. With that being said, I'm going to let Robbie, as president, do his little introduction, and then we'll turn it over to our first speaker.
So just want to welcome everybody to the call, and glad everybody's here, and hope that we can be of service to everybody. You know, if there's anything that we can do to help lead anybody in the right direction, I'll be glad to do that. Appreciate all the vendors and the speakers and everything we got going on tonight. Just appreciate your attendance. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Robbie. With that, I will turn this over to our first guest speaker, which is Greg Peeters. Greg, you can share your screen and you can take over.
Sounds great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Is my screen showing up?
It is not. No.
I see it.
You see?
Yeah,
Oh, it never. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. It's been a long day. Greg, you are good, buddy.
All right. I am Greg Peeters. I'm based in Salt Lake City. I am the founder and CEO of a company called CARADAS, and I wanted to present tonight the business really of ADAS calibration. Several different phases of it, and so just kind of a little history. My company is a training and consulting firm, and we specialize in building calibration centers for other people as a startup business typically. And our vision is to provide an end-to-end complete turnkey solution to opening your own collision repair center, primarily allowing collision repair operators to focus on their core business while we handle the ADAS side of the collision repair business. Our motto is protecting lives by certifying the performance of vehicle safety systems. We have, we'll be over 60 calibration centers this year in 24 states. You do see the Carolinas still open. We are rolling out probably 16 of them right now, 16 centers. It's growing rapidly. There is an incredible growth in ADAS calibration, and I just wanted to set the stage for that piece of it, kind of like a state of the industry. But the number of new vehicles, or the percent of vehicles you're fixing with ADAS, is growing exponentially. A few short years ago, it was 11%. Currently, we're right just a tad under, and this is national statistics, just a tad under 40%. And within the next 12 to 18 months, we'll exceed or be right at 50% of vehicles being repaired in the collision repair space. And that's factoring the average age of a vehicle in a repair center across the nation right now, 6.2 years old, which is a growing age actually a little bit. But I'll explain a little bit more why that is growing so fast. Also, in addition to the number of vehicles getting repaired that need a calibration, the number of calibrations And that based off of the number of sensors on each vehicle is also dramatically increasing. And finally, the government is applying a lot of pressure. In the state of Utah last summer, Utah passed a bill, a law that mandates with penalty of fine, a calibration is completed after every windshield replacement if that vehicle has a windshield camera. 7 states adopted that law so far this year. Here's a good example, I guess, or you know, what's leading it. So if we look at a trend, and if we looked at new vehicles in the US with automatic emergency braking, which has historically been a front radar, that's been most typical. If you go back about 6.2 years ago, we were down around 30% of new cars sold in America that had it. And in 3 short years, it grew 300%. It was a major growth. So 63 points, but 300% from 30% to 90%, right? This year, 98% of new vehicles had at least one ADAS feature. So if we look at then what you're fixing, you can see this overlap of the 2 ages is really dramatically growing. So I think the point is what you see right now, what you see right now is just the beginning of what the whole ADAS picture is about to look like. And that's just based off of, you know, the number of vehicles requiring it. There's this drive in the number of sensors, and really it's a race by the manufacturers to an autonomous vehicle. And so in that race, Mercedes is currently just in the lead with the first level 3 vehicle that's legal in the United States, which is really, it's a car that tells you when you don't have to watch the road or touch the steering wheel. And like that is a legal vehicle in California to be unengaged from driving. But again, just more and more sensors. Now, what used to be, you know, well equipped was 8 sensors, 10 sensors. Now there's 20 and 30 sensors on vehicles. And again, that push by government is driven really by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in studying that just with that forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking, there's a 56% reduction, not in crashes, but in crashes with injuries. So severity crashes, right? So over half are removed from a crash with an injury, a severe crash. So they being the government, understand a vehicle can't necessarily tell you when it's calibrated or calibrated correctly, and they are pushing for legal means of ensuring there's a certificate of calibration, something with, you know, proper documentation. So again, the wave of what we see is just beginning, and who needs it? It's a lot more than body shops. So tires and wheel alignment businesses are all scrambling for a solution. Mechanic shops, every time they pull a radiator now, or condenser, they're moving sensors. And cars are getting smarter about alerting that it is not calibrated or calibrated correctly, that a sensor is not lined up properly. And then again, anything with suspension and those types of things. So there's a lot of need coming. And so, you know, there's a theory we have around the calibration space or business, and it's either going all in or just kind of messing around with it. And I always like to tell, I think there's a lot more calibration equipment sitting in body shops in the corner collecting dust than getting used right now, because it isn't an easy business to get going on. And we help people dive into that pool of calibration, that whole industry. So I do like to touch on the legal side of this industry and of fixing cars. So I think there's three big buckets of legal prosecution coming. And the first is vehicles that were repaired or had a windshield replacer, or there was a need for a calibration that was never done. And the second bucket, I think, coming right behind it is the calibrations that are done incorrectly. And then the final is calibrations that were done, could have been done correctly, but there's no documentation that indicates that vehicle was calibrated correctly. I was just going to pause for a minute. That's a lot of speaking. And see if there's any questions so far, or thoughts or comments from the attendees.
Anybody have any questions?
It gets better. It gets less boring, the presentation, I promise.
You're good to continue.
All right. So one of the things is, if you sublet your calibration, do you have any control on quality? Are you able to control cycle time if it's sent off somewhere, or the cost factor, or even the profitability of it? And so I promote the idea of, hey, you should consider getting into the calibration center business. But if you do, I think there's 5 very important ingredients to doing it right. And to start off with is the environment, and what the OEM manufacturers say about must-haves in that environment. There's certainly equipment, which is, a lot of stuff. There's the process in following an OEM procedure. Certainly the right people, the right type of a technician, and getting that technician trained and certified, as well as software and support that you'll need to do the job.
Hey, Greg.
Yes.
Chad actually has a question.
Oh.
He writes, how do glass companies calibrate windshields properly? Hold on. Windshields properly. Companies like Safelite, they seem to plug into a vehicle and that's it. How are they doing this operation properly? Yeah, so there are, like a lot of our calibration businesses calibrate for glass centers, and some of our clients that build calibration centers are in fact glass companies. I feel that glass companies are behind the collision repair industry and in this by a ways. And so I will tell you, if you were to, I'll break it down in 2 pieces. One is the accuracy of a calibration, especially on a forward-facing long-distance system, is incredibly important. And we have case after case showing how it affects the ability for that vehicle to see and react in time for a hazard when it's miscalibrated. And the OEM is very specific on certain things. So floor levelness, and we're gonna actually dive into that a bit, is certainly one of those things, because floor levelness in the exact same plane as the vehicle affects how high or low that sensor, whether it's a radar or a camera, sees. And if it's looking a little bit too high at a target being placed, at a relatively close distance, but it looks out over 2 football fields, it's going to be a long ways off. That little bit of variance gets exaggerated over distance. So the idea of calibrating a vehicle on an unlevel surface, such as a parking lot or a wash bay, is 100% against OEM procedure. Does that answer your question?
Oh, Josh, your microphone is muted if you're talking to us.
Sorry, someone's emailing me and asking for links. He says, absolutely agree. It seems insane when you are forced to use a certain company per an insurer. This little emoji thing, to replace a windshield and you witness them plug and play.
Yeah, and so then there's that where there are companies fooling the car and not actually calibrating at all, and they're clearing codes and resetting and it's just so early in the game, but all things will result in, number one, it's unsafe and it's not the right thing to do. And we have about 138 technicians now certified through our program. And we tell them all, listen, it's like packing a parachute. You're the last person that's going to authenticate and approve that that safety system is going to protect lives or save lives like it's designed to. And if you pack that parachute wrong, you're putting somebody's life in jeopardy. And it's not just the mom and the kids in the van. It's the motorcycle in the blind spot that's not calibrated correctly and it's looking in the wrong spot for a hazard. It's on and on and on, right? So it's a super dangerous money grab. So positively, on a positive note, I would like to kind of work through how you get started and how you get engaged and involved in the business. So one, I would tell you, it's a very profitable, high return on investment business. It's the right thing to do, and it's growing. And so to start off with, I think you have to start with the business side of it. And I think you have to ask yourself, is this the right thing to do financially? What could I be successful? And how do I determine that? So we would recommend starting, right, with and this is just a small example, but with a market study and identify, hey, however you do it, certainly Google can help and play a role, but you would have to start by identifying who are my potential clients and who isn't, and who's the competition. And then start to dial that in and really start to categorize who could I do calibration business with, and then where should I place my calibration center? Where's the greatest concentration? When you're doing calibrations, you are going to need a roadway system for test driving and validating vehicle systems, getting dynamic calibrations to pass through. You're going to need 4-lane highways. You're going to need an in-town road. You're going to need parking lots. And then I would start to build out a client list based off of that. And I would get very organized, and I would start to pre-work those potential clients and understand their need and what they're doing now, and begin to actually build out what my business would look like. Now, some folks have their book of business already. They have multiple body shops and they need a calibration solution. And if they build it to service their body shops, it's a slam dunk for them. I'll pause for just a moment. Any questions on the studying your market and understanding your book of business? I think it's important to do your homework. And so next is beginning to get the bay ready, right? The size, the calibration center. So really some basic, and these are not specific to OEM. These are a combination of many OEMs. But what we found is if you're going to do your standard Europeans, Asian, and domestics, to get all systems calibrated, you're going to need a minimum of a 30 by 50 bay with walk around room or buffer area for equipment and walking around it. And it amounts to about a 40 by 60 bay for that buffer area. In addition, if you really get into business, you're going to have more than one vehicle in your calibration center at a time. Many vehicles need a bumper removed, a wire harness repaired, a new sensor aimed or replaced. It's more than just calibrating. There's a diagnostic and repair. About 20% of the calibrations or vehicles from body shops will need some either programming, diagnostic, and repair before it can be calibrated. You also need at least a 12-foot ceiling height. Here's a good example of, when we, oh man, that's tiny. When we get involved, can you guys read this, or is that way too small? This is all about the floor.
That's good.
Okay, so an 8mm variance, which is just under 3/8 of an inch, in a 30 by 50 space. That's OEM tolerance. Minimum imperfections, no drains, no trench, no pitches in the floor. The floor has to be relatively smooth and coated. And I would tell you, it's not that an uncoated floor will not work, but the floor and the wall should be the same color. In addition, a calibration technician lives on the floor as their whiteboard. So measurements, angles, points of reference are all transferred from the wheelbase of the vehicle onto the floor during calibration. They're done so with a wet erase marker, which is easily removed when the vehicle is done. But it's to have a calibration center that's going to be somewhat efficient, you have to have a floor that acts as a whiteboard. On the wall side of it, sorry. The wall is, really instrumental in both the camera calibrations, forward-facing camera calibrations, as well as the radar. So in the camera calibrations, it's any sort of pattern, light or dark, a poster, something black on white confuses the camera during calibration to either fail the calibration or miscalibrate the sensor. So having kind of a clean forward-facing wall is very important. And then on the radar side, anything metal will distract a radar during calibration. So I just want to talk about kind of during calibration as we go through this versus while driving a car. So during calibration, the sensors are incredibly sensitive and will pick up on, any object that seems it shouldn't, like a fire extinguisher. That has nothing to do with how it operates during normal driving. This is just during calibration. So colors and metal and all those things are just very relevant during calibration. Lighting is incredibly crucial during calibration, and it's not so much a miscalibration as just failed calibrations. So both the uniform, the light and darks affect the camera calibrations. I can think of several like specific vehicles. Natural light with a bright window that with the sun hitting the floor affects calibrations. Shadows affect calibration. Some manufacturers, the camera calibration is very sensitive to the appropriate lighting. Subaru would be one of those. A lot of the around views want a reduced lighting. So having a very specific lighting pattern, lighting height, and so that the light is diffused and even across the vehicle, but then not having a light over a hood or a windshield causing a reflection, which often confuses it. And then the ability to dim that section of lighting so you can complete a calibration is really important. So here are, I've tried to share some examples, and I have more of what an actual calibration lab looks like. But here's what it doesn't, and this is real life in the field. And these are vehicles that were miscalibrating. They weren't going through, or they were calibrating very inaccurately. But again, you see a black toolbox on a white wall. You have metal posts around, distracting. A radar calibration or a camera calibration would really struggle here, and did.
Question, Greg.
Yes.
2 questions. So Chad asked, so a perfect white room?
Or as close to it as you can get.
Okay.
And really only one manufacturer calls out the color, like in what they call an RAL number. The rest of them just say a uniform light color.
Okay. And then Tony Yeso writes, what about radar absorbing foam to avoid distractions?
Absolutely. 5/8 inch sheetrock on a square post works well. I will tell you, we supply radar absorbing foam, and it's incredibly expensive. Even for a 2x3 adhesive sheet, it's a very expensive. You wouldn't want to do the walls of a room, but you can even see here on this, if you go 8 foot up, and we have examples and pictures coming up, with just a furred out wall with 5/8 sheetrock, you will be protected from that metal. You could literally, on this steel post here, that the red steel girder posts, you can glue a 5/8 sheetrock piece just slightly wider than that steel right on the face of that post, and you're fine. You will not have interference during calibration.
Okay. And then Tony also writes, white is too bright. iCar painted their floor in their lab gloss gray and had to come back and repaint it in the matte finish.
Correct. No glossy, shiny paints. I'm very familiar. We're actually a partner, both an alliance training partner. Our training is iCar approved and equals gold class points, as well as a sustaining business partner. So I spent plenty of time in Chicago at the iCar training center. And yes, the amount of money and time and resource they spent on leveling the floor and then learning to get it at the right gloss level. Yeah, we actually spec out and supply an epoxy coating that's perfect.
Chad also wrote, hold on. What's it cost to build a perfect 30x50 bay? Typically, if we can't talk about numbers, I understand, please ignore. So this is a different type of numbers. I mean, this is a guesstimate with regards to building an ADAS room.
Yeah. So I'll go through a couple of things. So to do a 30x50, it really depends on the condition of the floor when you start. And then how you get it there. So for example, right, you can buy a floor grinding or rent a floor grinding system from Sunbelt Rental. And you can get, a small cheap one from your local Home Depot type thing, or you can go get industrial and get the job done. You can use a self-leveling multi-plane laser system that you can pick up off of Amazon, and a tape measure, and you can map out your floor. And you can get it leveled out. That being said, if the floor is old and broken and is has cracks that are lifted, and that's a repour. So the dollar amount it varies wildly. If you have a cement building, I would simply rent a sprayer and paint the walls with a eggshell finish that is almost a perfect match to the floor. You can grind. I will tell you this, the old days of using like an acid-based etch on the floor, it all peels up. It is a short-lived. You have to have a mechanical grind on the floor for that epoxy coating to last, and to get the cement smooth enough to be able to use it as the right surface that you want. Great points and great questions and thoughts. Here's another good example of problems. So these windows are an incredibly bright light source that will absolutely confuse this camera. But then, of course, right behind the target itself, you've got white and black signs and yellow signs, and just really an array. This exit sign is really tough. So really an array of problems, confusing, and causing either a miscalibration or no calibration at all. Here's a good example of a bunch of different. So these are real life. All these are real life, by the way. So up at the top right corner, you can see same setup, same target, but they literally took a hood box to try and block the lights. Here's another big piece. Not only is it important for the floor to be leveled, but the vehicle during calibration has to be on an exact plane or levelness that the manufacturer dictates. And so it starts with tire pressure. All 4 tires have to be brought up to or set at exactly the OEM specification on the spat label on the inside of the door. There can be no cargo or passengers in the vehicle. It has to have the equivalent of a full tank of fuel. And lastly, the wheel alignment or the thrust angle wheel alignment must be within OEM tolerance. This is all before you calibrate the car. So this example in the middle is a vehicle being calibrated in a driveway. So what do we know about people's driveways? I mean, they have a pitch to them to drain water away from the garage and the house, right? So it's absolutely not on the same plane. The bottom left corner is a good example. This is a Subaru, and it will not calibrate outside. The cameras can't have bright light during calibration. So they put the Subaru target on a much lower plane out in the middle of the driveway, back the car in the garage, and are trying to calibrate to get it to pass through that way. So it's just really, again, just a lot of miscalibrations. I always say, hey, it's like aiming. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, he's talking to somebody else.
Okay, it's like aiming a long-range rifle, right?
Yeah.
You could say it's aimed, but is it really aimed if that aiming process wasn't done properly? And so you can say it's calibrated, but if it's misaimed, it is not going to avoid accidents like it's supposed to. It could, in fact, provide that false sense of security that would cause an accident. This is a good example of really measuring out the highs and lows of a floor, gridding it out, and having a plan to bring it to an OEM specification. And here's a good example of designing a lighting grid. So these little darker rectangles are actually an LED dimmable light. this silhouette is a vehicle. And then the green big boxes, these light green boxes, are actually a dimmable lighting zone. So in this example, if I were doing a Subaru camera calibration here, I would have this zone dimmed while I might be working on radar calibrations over here, not affecting each other. And these could be at full light. Here's an example of a properly leveled out. This actually was a shop that there was a trench drain, or is a trench drain, that was pitched, and they re-poured that whole center section and leveled it out. Another great example of a center that, although it's not bright enough in this photo, it is in real life, but where the floor's been leveled, coated, you can see an 8-foot partition wall has been put on all of the metal interior walls, a perfect lighting system. All of the windows in here, I don't know if you can tell, have a really heavy tint on them, creating no sunlight. But we like to say these spaces are engineered for success. And I would tell you that these centers calibrate 200 plus vehicles a month. Doesn't have to be that big. It just depends where you build them, right? Other questions? Can I pause for a minute and allow questions?
Yeah, so it says, I apologize for repeating myself, but what is the average cost of a 30 by 50 bay, not just the floor?
So again, it depends what you all have to do, and how much you do yourself versus sublet it out. But I think you could do a 30 by 50 bay if you were to do lights and it didn't need a lot of floor work or wall work. I think you're probably into that 30 by 50 bay for somewhere between 5 and 10 grand. A typical, might as well just throw money around now. A typical calibration package, SEMA's next week, I think you'll see in the $40,000 area. We distribute equipment and teach, implement, and support it. But I will say we have upwards of 70 part numbers now on tooling that's needed in addition to a typical calibration package to get the whole job done. And some of it says, and so it's what you need, I don't know, but like a slot wall system they hang your targeting on, or you're going to have, or a racking system for targeting in addition to, you cannot have scratches on the face of your targets. You can't have dents, you can't have bent corners. You can't have warped targets. Doesn't work. Let's check and see if that answered the question.
Yeah, he hasn't commented, so.
Okay. Now, I will tell you, if you're going to sublet all that out, you could double it maybe. You know, if you're going to have contractors come in and do everything, grind your floor, coat your floor, paint your walls. We're all about trying to make it affordable. Do it as right as you possibly can, but make it affordable. I think a big thing is to mitigate liability and to get reimbursed or paid for what you do, you have to document everything. You have to tell the story of every step you made through documentation. So whether it's the alignment verification, the setting up, all of the preliminary work, everything should have a documentation. We call it complete documentation. Tell the story. The test drive, identifying the safety systems that are on the vehicle, identifying the calibrations necessary based off the estimate. including OEM procedures.
Hey, there's one comment by Tony Yeso. New construction on property that you already own would cost approximately 500K. But I see an Autel system sitting there and another aftermarket fixture down on the other end. Sorry, folks, that's not OEM.
So, although I don't know that this call is about the argument of OEM versus non-OEM, but I'll talk about it. In all of our centers, we do not allow any target that is not an OEM equivalent. We don't allow any placement that is not OEM procedure and validated to be OEM procedure. We do not allow any calibration without validating OEM procedure. I strongly feel you should place that target to the OEM specifications as accurately and error-proof as you possibly can. There are multiple aftermarket companies now that make that placement, I would call NASA rated compared to what the OEM offers for certain makes. Far superior to what, and there's many manufacturers that don't make any placement components at all. They only sell you the target. So, some of those, the people using those targets are taping it to the wall, which is in no way accurate. I'm going to keep rolling if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. No, keep going. I don't know how much time we have left, but definitely let's keep going.
Okay. So again, recording mileage, all components of your entire process, including this, what we call the dynamic system verification test drive, the final scanning of the vehicle, what we call a health check, when it's completed that test drive, validating all systems are working in harmony and have zero code errors. All right, this next section is about money. And while we do not dictate pricing, I do need to use pricing examples. Are you comfortable with that, Josh?
I'd rather not.
Okay, we'll skip that part.
Yeah, because I think we're getting close to the 45-minute mark, so.
Okay. I'll then just bring up my my final slide, really, and that's what does this future really look like? And again, I think it's more sensors per vehicle. I don't think each year the sensors are becoming longer distance and more complex, smaller. And as we're developing, we see the ratio of diagnostic and repair in relationship to calibration growing. We see sensor failures, sensor degradations, more and more diagnostic things. So open it up for any other comments or questions.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question for Greg. No? Okay.
Well, thank
Great.
you. everyone.
Oh, wait, hold on. We got one. Greg, can you please explain dynamic blind spot systems that only require a scan tool and a self-drive?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ford F-150 and similar is probably the most popular dynamic blind spot self-calibrating sensor. It's a wonderful sensor mounted in the taillight. Let's maybe back up a second. So the difference between there's three. Oh, I got a lot of feedback.
It's
Is that-
done. I got it.
There we go. So there's three arteries, if you will, or buckets of calibration. One is a dynamic, where the diagnostic tool requests the vehicle goes into calibration mode, and you're instructed to drive the vehicle. And there are certain parameters on a diagnostic tool to guide you at speed and so forth. But the vehicle is using the environment to calibrate its sensors as you drive it. That drive time could be as little as 5 minutes and as much as 50 minutes. That's a dynamic calibration. There's a static calibration, which is purely physical targets, whether they're, imagery targets, heat targets, or reflective targets for radar. But then there's also now the blend, where you have to statically aim the sensor, and then the vehicle, the diagnostic tool, will instruct you to begin the dynamic portion. So it's a dual calibration on a sensor. Did that answer the question? I can tell you this, you can't dynamically calibrate a sensor that requires a static calibration or vice versa. There are some manufacturers that have opened as an optional, you can do either. So in other words, if you prefer to do dynamic, but it's snowing out, a dynamic won't work. And you'll need to do it static, and they offer, you can go either way. That's a lower percent than typical.
Yes, he said thank you.
Perfect.
And with that being said, Greg, we definitely appreciate. Is there a way I can get a copy of your slide presentation?
Yeah, I'll get rid of the financial pieces and stuff like that, Josh, and get you a copy.
Yes, or you can leave them in, and if anybody on this call would like it, I can just send it to them. They can see it that way.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time. Again, this is recorded, so this will be on our website, and hopefully more of our members will watch it.
Sounds awesome. Thanks again for the opportunity. I appreciate everybody's time.
All right, Greg. Thank you. Have a good evening and enjoy SEMA.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, good deal. We're going to push right along so we can get you guys back to your normal lives. So our last presentation will be by Taylor Moss, who is the creator of CARADAS. I found that out when we had him in person in the Carolinas. And his company was purchased by OEC. And but he still runs the show. So Taylor, thank you for being on this evening, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Definitely love being here and sharing the Repair Logic product with shops. Can everyone see my screen all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk through a few slides here first, talk about just what Repair Logic is, why we built it, and what it can do for people. It's pretty new to the market. We've only been selling the product for about a little over a year now. I've been working on it since about 2017, late 2017. So a lot has gone in, a lot of work. Like Josh said, I'm one of the original founders of the product. So I was there, the day one when we were writing on the napkin, like how can we, help solve the problem of really the problem that RepairLogic solves is that it's really difficult to access repair procedures, right? Because OEMs have all different websites and logins and things like that. That's a challenge in getting repair procedures. And then the other challenge is being able to use them, right? Share them, get the data you need out of them. It's hundreds of pages. You can only really save them as PDFs right now, one at a time, whether you're using all data or whether you're using an OE website or another third-party type of repair procedure lookup tool. So RepairLogic has a lot of technology built in and to help solve a lot of these problems. Before that, I was founder at a company called Estify. Some of you may know what Estify does, and basically like rekeying the estimates. That's originally where I found out, that it was a really big challenge to find repair procedures, right? And Estify helped some body shops with some of their estimates. We were really excited about what we're building, what we've built with RepairLogic, because it can help on every estimate that we have the data for, right? Not just some of the estimates for some of the shops. So I just wanted to start off too with our mission, right? So I didn't start this project or build RepairLogic with the team that we put in place to just stand on stage places and say like, hey, look at this cool thing we built. We really built this to make life easier and better at the repair shop for the frontline workers, right? Your estimators, your blueprinters, your technicians, everyone who is trying to get these cars fixed, right? And deal with, all of the pressures that are on a day-to-day basis, right? Informing customers, keeping them up to date on the repair, talking to insurance adjusters, making sure they have what they need to get claims paid and understand what needs to be done to a car and things like that. So really our mission, everything we look at is, hey, is this driving safety, trust, and transparency in vehicle repair? And if it's not, we call each other out and say, like, hey, we need to go back and revisit this because are we staying true to that mission for our customers? And I hope you'll see that as we go through the platform a little bit here. So the case for RepairLogic, the documented repair or really pulling all of the procedures, not just a few of the procedures on a repair, is telling you why you need to do what you're doing on this car. And it's telling that to a few people that really matter, right? It's telling the insurance adjuster why you need to do the things and why that they should probably pay you for those things that you're doing on this vehicle, right? Tells the consumer why this repair might take a longer time, right? There's a lot going into it, a lot of different technical steps that need to happen to make this vehicle safe to put them and their family back into. And it can help also your technicians tell the why, right? Like why can't we section the vehicle right there? Why do we have to do this anti-corrosion protection? Why can't we blend there? All those different questions. What calibrations? Talking about what Greg was talking about there, when we need to do those calibrations, right? So I think it's critical that we can have this data so we know why we're doing what we're doing and everyone's informed about that. So RepairLogic really sits on about 6 pillars that I like to share with people. So we look at RepairLogic as a repair planning platform, not just like a procedure lookup tool, right? Procedure lookup tool implies that you have to save these individual PDFs out somewhere on your desktop or print them or some way to get them into a plan. As a platform, we make that really easy in order to check a box next to a procedure and you can add it to this digital plan. So this digital VIN-based record, this far right pillar on the top, everything you're adding to this plan, you don't actually have to print anything to build a very complete repair plan for each repair that you're working on. All of that's just stored in the cloud and you can reference back to it, or you can use computers to look up those procedures. No PDF creation is necessary, although we allow it. In the middle there, let's go over to access to data. So one of the key components to me is making sure that we had access to unedited OEM information as we were going through and figuring out, like, what does this product need to do, right? So everything in RepairLogic is unedited from the manufacturer. So if you went to Toyota's website, if you went to Honda's website, you went to Ford's website, the procedures in RepairLogic would look the exact same. The formatting, the colors, the pictures, all of that. None of it's put into any other format. They're also, and they're copyrighted, right? They're authorized uses of the procedure, right? So if you ever have questions about did you do the right procedure at that point in time, anything you use or access in Repair Logic's an authorized copy of that repair instruction. Let's go to the middle there in collaboration. So not just finding the information on the repair procedures and what to do on the vehicle is important, but also sharing it with the right people. Like I mentioned a little bit before, but adjusters need to know, right? Why there's one-time use parts and you have to order those even though they're not damaged, or why you have to do this calibration, or why can't you section where they think you should be able to section, or other things like that. So Repair Logic makes it very easy to share in a variety of ways to really meet your use case of what you need to share, how much you need to share, if you need to share the whole thing or just a little bit of parts of it or things like that. You could also share with technicians, right? Technicians have access, they have logins, so they can get in and look at procedures themselves and look at the plan that's been built. Also, you can share it with your customer, the vehicle owner, right? If you want to show them how much work and how extensive this repair is and how much, kind of showing them that they can trust you, right? These are all the things that we need to do to your vehicle to put it back in pre-accident condition. The next one is this versioning. So Repair Logic is smart enough that while you are building a repair plan, because it's all digitally stored, if any of those procedures gets updated and you haven't marked this repair as complete yet, Repair Logic will notify you that these procedures have changed in flight, right? And you can review those procedures to see what changed. Sometimes they take things out, steps out, sometimes they add things, sometimes they move them around, but you can see exactly what the differences are in that repair procedure based on the original you added and the updated version. Yeah, and if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat or stop me and I'll definitely try and answer any questions that you've got. So the next piece is one-time use parts. So one-time use parts traditionally have been very difficult to find. I know they're getting into the estimating systems a little bit by a little bit. So they're starting to say, you know, this is a one-time use part, but Repair Logic has all of the one-time use parts that are called out in the documentation by the manufacturer. And we actually call those out with a little icon that shows you where they are as you're searching procedures without needing to actually go in them. And you can hover and see what the titles of those parts are and how many quantity of those parts as you're looking through procedure titles. And the last one is auto-linked procedures. So as you're building a repair plan, if you click a link to like a rear bumper cover, for example, and that procedure rear bumper cover says you have to do 8 other things, all of those will come along with that rear bumper cover. So the auto-linked procedures is a really, really powerful function to be able to get procedures very quickly and intuitively and make sure you're not missing things like calibrations or one-time use parts or other things that might need to be done that you may not get to in the normal course of your research. So I wanted to share just a little example before we jump into the demo here. This is an estimate. It's a quarter panel rear end hit. I've shared just a bit of, you know, the estimate lines here. So you can see kind of the totals, but it's a 2017 Lexus RX 350. This is a buddy of mine in Omaha, Nebraska. He sent me this and he's like, Taylor, I want to do this as a demo for our auto body association and show them like what the original estimate we got from the insurance carrier was versus what we added just based on what Repair Logic found. So he gave me this is the original estimate. It was $4,900, pretty standard, what you'd expect from an insurance carrier on a quarter panel rear end hit, right? They obviously didn't disassemble anything and look up anything. That it's just what they could visually see by looking at this vehicle. 27.4 body hours, 2 mechanical hours, $4,900 estimate. So he told me, he's like, Taylor, go in and use Repair Logic, find all the procedures that you can, and then I will go in and write the supplement basically on all the things that Repair Logic says you need to do by looking at their OEM repair procedures. And so I did that. And what I found was, I spent 20 to 30 minutes in Repair Logic, just looking up procedures. All I did was go off these lines and didn't look at any pictures, just found these lines that he had on the estimate here. And I selected the procedures in Repair Logic. Doing that, I selected 64 different procedures. And with that auto linking feature I was telling you about, those 64 procedures automatically added another 140 procedures on top of that. So I got a total of 204 procedures for this quarter panel on this Lexus RX 350. And that's a total of 204 procedures with just 64 clicks. I did that in about 20 to 30 minutes, uninterrupted. So I also found 31 unique one-time use parts. And of those 31 unique one-time use parts, that added up to a quantity of 79 parts that were not on this estimate yet. None of those were on that estimate yet. And the new total of that estimate, after adding all of those one-time use parts and any of the R&I operations or other operations needed from the repair plan, was about double. I can share that estimate with you if you'd want. Let me know, and we can share that out to you for my buddy there, with all the personal identifiable information all taken out of there. I think that's just a great example of how quickly you can actually do this repair research now, right? And I looked at every line. I didn't look at just the quarter panel document, right? I looked at every single document I could find and needed for this. This also, I'll caveat this does not include any of the post-repair inspections that Toyota requires anytime a vehicle's in an accident. So those would obviously be additional labor operations that you would need to do as part of that. So the bottom line really is, I know there's shops out there today that'll say, Taylor, we research every repair, we look at every line, and we do it every day, all day at our shops, right? And to you, I say Repair Logic can help you, because we could take that time you're spending and take it way, way down, right? Like, I can't promise you it's going to be 15 minutes on every job, but I can say it'll be a small fraction of what you're currently doing if you're researching all day, every day, every single repair. If you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're like, hey, we don't do any research or very little, only when we're like really confused and need some help, Repair Logic can help that shop too, right? It's built to be super intuitive and very easy to start learning and start looking at procedures and start wrapping your head around what's there. It's built to do that in a way that looks the same for every different manufacturer, while keeping that integrity of not editing any of the vehicle parts. Everything we do is based on like looking at a car like an estimator would look at it, right? Any front door procedures fall into the front door category, instead of like trying to find different things in different parts of the car. So now we'll jump to a demo. Does anyone have any questions before we jump there? Let me see if there's any in the chat here or anything.
I don't see anything as of now.
Okay, cool. You can also just unmute yourself if you're on mute and ask a question as well. That's totally fine with me while I'm jumping over here. Share my Repair Logic screen here. Okay, there's the Repair Logic screen. So Repair Logic is totally web-based, so you can access it anywhere. Just log in with your username and password, and you get to a page that looks like this. This is your standard page. This is our repair plans page. So it is like a work list of all the vehicles that you have in the shop, right? I can search through this. I can see different procedures. And to create a new plan, all I do right here is click this new plan. I'm going to click new plan from a year, make, and model. Let's go look at a 2023. Let's look at a Escalade. So I select my vehicle. I could do it through a VIN. If I have the VIN, it will populate all of that. I can actually set the color if I want as well. This damaged areas is important because this will help me identify what different parts of the car that Repair Logic is going to recommend that I look at, so I make sure I'm not missing anything. So if I have like a front end hit, for example, I could click those areas of the car, maybe the front's the most damage, but there's still damage on other areas like my fenders and maybe my front door as well. And then I can hit start over here. When I hit start, this is the procedures page. You can see I went from vehicle down to procedures, and I get this 3D model of my vehicle. I can click these different areas of the car that will load up all the procedures in that group of the car from bumper grill. I can toggle that off and jump right to the inner structure if I want to go to inner structure. I can look at the groups list over here on the left. You can see at the top I have these recommended groups. These are all based on the damaged areas I selected for this car. I've also got my all categories I can look at, right? I've got position statements. A lot of times position statements don't live with the repair manuals. So this is somewhere I can get my repair manuals and my position statements together. Got scanning. These are all of the position statements that General Motors has for this vehicle. And I can open them up, look at them if I'm not sure from the title that I need it, and ensure that I need it and check the box here. So like I said, this is a digital plan. Every box I check is saving these as part of my plan. So I don't need to actually print them out if I don't want to. They're going to be saved in this summary of my plan. You can see this starts building up here that I have 2 procedures here. If I want to go over to my front bumper and grille section, I can go over here. This shows me all the types of procedures I could look at in this list here, and I can kind of hyperlink to those. If I want to just scroll through all of them, I've got this list over here. Let's say I need my long range radar sensor. I can look at that procedure. I can add this to my plan. And this is an example of that automatic linking. So I clicked this one, it added 3 procedures for me, because as you can see here, these blue links show me that these are necessary procedures based on that. If I go down to my R&I procedures, removal and installation procedures right there, you can see this 1X ID. This is the icon that denotes that there's a one-time use part here. And if I hover over it, I can see the name of that part and the quantity on that. So this front license plate bracket rivet, that's a one-time use part. If I add that to my plan, then this will add that to my one-time use parts report. If I click that, it will show me there, right now there's only this one, and this is the procedure it came from. I can toggle the image on, I can see those different brackets there. I can download this plan if I want to download it in the future as well. Send it to my parts department, my parts at the dealership. I can add other procedures here. You can see there's multiple procedures added there. Let's go look at something with a little bit more one-time use parts for General Motors. The suspension in General Motors is heavy on one-time use parts. I'll add that one to my plan. You can see a whole bunch of procedures came along with that. Just doing this so I can show you this one-time use parts report with more stuff on it. So now I've added a few procedures. You can see I've got 5 different unique one-time use parts here. The quantity is 10 on here so far. They'll tell me per side, right? If it's something that's only on one side of the car, if I'm doing both, I've got to double that number, right? And I can download that right there. All right, so now we can go back out here, and RepairLogic will actually pull these parts off the 3D model. So you can see I've added front suspension and front bumper procedures, and then I can continue on and add the rest of the procedures I need. Up here, I can search the entire manual. So for example, if I wanted to find anything that references the word pillar, I get 147 results in this General Motors manual for Cadillac, and anything with pillar in the title is going to be prioritized at the top. And then at some point I'll get down here where they don't say pillar anymore. This means that those have the word pillar somewhere in the body content of that repair procedure. This is an example of sometimes these procedures live in multiple places. So it's asking me if I want this one from the roof or the accessories. group there. One of the things we also do with Repair Logic is, so these groups I think are pretty critical. So we've got position statements, we've got general safety position statements as well. We've got our airbags and restraints all in one section. So these airbags and restraints, all the airbags and restraints procedures will be here. They will also live somewhere where they'll also live on the vehicle where they exist, right? If it's in the dash panel, like your steering wheel airbags and your other airbags, those will be in the dash and sections as well, right? Hang on 1 second here. Sorry about that. I had a little visitor. ADAS section, same thing. ADAS, anything ADAS related will live in this section on the vehicle. So whether it's modules, programming, calibrations, tools, position statements that are related, R&I of your different modules or brackets or sensors or things like that, those will all live in this ADAS section as well. If it's an electric vehicle, we have this high voltage electrical section. This is not a electric vehicle, so there's not much in there, but the high voltage electrical will help on your electric vehicles to show you like your deactivation, de-energization procedures and things like that really easily. I'll call it this too. So this is a new feature that's coming soon. It's not live yet, but this is our quick start guide. It's been a really demanded feature by our customers of like all the procedures that you use on almost every car, right? So you've got things like battery DNRs, you've got collision sectioning warning procedures, you've got anti-corrosion protection procedures, you've got your repairs and inspections required after a collision. General Motors has 2 separate ones. This is the big one with all the inspections, replacements required depending on different severity of the accident listed here, and all the different things they want inspected and reviewed. Those are very easy to add from Repair Logic, from this quick start guide. Any sectioning type stuff, any other things that can be critical to get right up front that are used on a lot of repairs or almost all repairs. So you can see in just a few minutes here, we've added 53 procedures to our repair plan without that much clicking around. Next, I want to show you a little bit of this, how we get these procedures out, right? Let's say the insurance adjuster is giving us a hard time on all these inspections that we've got to do, giving us a hard time on one-time use parts. And so we're going to create a little, what we call a collection of just these procedures that are in question for the insurance adjuster. That was a big one. So I can just select the ones that I want. I can hit this save collection button. What this is going to do, it's going to save just these 6 procedures into a single PDF. And now I go on my files and notes, and this file I just generated, I click this download button, it's going to generate this file for me. If I save that, I'm going to open it. And now I have this PDF with 37 pages, a table of contents showing me where each procedure is. I can hyperlink to it. I can send this over to an adjuster to show them what the things they have questions about and answer those questions very, very easily. I have got a couple other things I can do here. I've got the one-time use parts report I can download from here. I've got this shareable full repair plan. Let's say you don't have much room in your management system, but you'd like to keep a copy of this entire plan. I can click that button. It will generate this file over here for me. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment, but it's a very, very tiny PDF file that I can link to in my management system. I can send this to my customer. I can send it to an adjuster. Clicking this link, this will download the entire repair plan, all of those can't remember how many we had, 54, I think, something like that. Procedures with a table of contents, and I can hyperlink right to that in that document as well. So that's a feature we hear really good things about as well. If I want to just download the whole repair plan, I can do that just by hitting this full repair plan button right there. I've also got a sign off checklist. If I want to give my technicians and have them sign off that they did all the procedures, I can do that. I can also do that via my digital sign off here. So I can assign a technician. This technician will get notified that they are assigned to this plan. So if Zach's my technician, I can assign Zach to this repair plan by individual procedure or by the whole plan. So this is the workspace page now, our last page. I've got my one-time use parts report up here that I can look at. I've got all of these procedures. I can open them up, look through them, make sure I follow them, and then I can actually check them off if you want to use a digital workflow and check these procedures off. If you go out of this vehicle and come back into it and the procedures have changed, this version report will tell you that there's new versions of these procedures. We just built this, so there's nothing there yet, but this will show you those version reports there. I'm going to jump over here. This is that 2017 Lexus RX 350. So these are the procedures that we pulled. Remember, it was 200 plus procedures just from those 64 clicks that I did. This is that entire plan. This is the one-time use part report for that repair plan. You see those 39, quantity of 70 plus new parts that are going on it. So hope you can see it's pretty simple. We try to make it really, really intuitive that you can pick this up from day one and start learning and getting better at what you're doing. Or if you're an expert, you know, you can get in there and learn it quick as well. So
Taylor, I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does it look like on the printout on the estimate itself? Like CCC or Mitchell, what does it look like when it's printed out?
So yeah, that's a great question. So it's not integrated to CCC yet at all or any other estimating system. So you do the research here. And so for example, you go in and see like, okay, I've got to do all these things. You still need to transfer that over to your estimate, right? And so you could say like, okay, I need to, let's say I need to install my quarter trim speaker. I'd have to go find my quarter trim speaker, hit R&I on that in CCC to make sure I'm getting paid for that. Or if it's included, right? Included. So
at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
it says
Chris,
included.
at the end of the day, this speeds up the entire process, whether you're pulling repair procedures or you're using this program. This program is still going to be faster than going and pulling repair procedures. I personally believe that you should have both, because obviously there's certain vehicles that Repair Logic does not cover. But to me, you should have both resources to be able to go. But this right here speeds up the process for all those shops that say they don't have time. Because guys, I hear this every day that I'm in shops. Are you pulling repair procedures? No, I don't. We don't have time. I don't have the staff. I don't have the people. I don't have this. I don't have that. This right here, even though it's a little bit extra work, it's still a heck of a lot less time than going to Nissan and pulling their procedures.
yeah, no, that's a great thought. Thanks for sharing, Josh. And I'll add too, I didn't share this because I know our time's shorter here, but so Repair Logic is really focused on the how-to, right? Like what is required to fix this vehicle, not the how much, right? The how much still lives in CCC and Mitchell and Autotex in your estimating system, right? And so right now, there's no link from what's here in Repair Logic to what's there. So that's where you have to still make that link and make sure you're getting paid. But yeah, I think to dive a little deeper on that. So this Lexus RX, the estimate that the insurer gave them was about $4,900, right? And you could say like they got all the included operations. Well, that's not true, because all my buddy did is he went back in from the repair procedures I pulled for him. and added the different R&Is and the one-time use parts that had been missed and not auto included by, CC1, you could obviously tell what format that estimate was in, and it about doubled that estimate. So there's a lot of not included that you can be getting, and you should be getting. You're probably doing that work today, right? You're just not getting paid for it. So that's one of the keys, and we're working on trying to make that more seamless. Because I know it's not fun to like do your research here, then be like, oh, I gotta go add all these things in. So we're working on that. Yeah, it's a great question. Does that answer it? Did that make any more questions come up?
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Anyone else? Let's see if there's. I don't see any new chats, but let me jump.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With Repair Logic, I know that it is limited to specific makes and manufacturers. There are certain makes and manufacturers that are not available. Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming in the pike as far as what manufacturers you're looking to add within the next short distance? Because seems like we run into the same gaps between we use Repair Logic. We've used Repair Logic since I guess back in May, and use it every day. And we also use All Data along with a couple of other different methods to research. But it seems like that between all of them, there's a few manufacturers that just have really bad gaps. So what is Repair Logic doing to fill those gaps?
As far as gaps, do you mean like the
informational
bad, or do you say like they're just not available from
they're not available at all?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. So the coverage we have today is all the manufacturers you could see here on this vehicle information page. And it represents about 80% of the vehicles on the road today from a just pure manufacturer standpoint. It's like, as you can guess, I'm sure it took a long time to get a lot of these signed deals. And I'd love to say it's not a messy process, but it's a very messy process of getting the data and putting it in. So we cover 2010 to present for most all of these vehicles right now of everything they have. That's not always 100% true, but we're working and adding data as quickly as we can for those manufacturers. We also have a couple manufacturers come in very soon. So Volkswagen and Audi, the team I used to manage up until about 2 months ago is onboarding Volkswagen and Audi procedures right now. So those should be coming very, very soon within the next couple months here, as well as Hyundai. Hyundai is a manufacturer that we've signed and they're coming soon. And Subaru's also signed with us, and those are coming soon as well. If you are a very heavy Mercedes-Benz and BMW shop, we are not a good fit. I will tell you that right away. Those are ones that have been, more resistant to work with Repair Logic, but I can tell you there's 3 others that we're working with. We can't tell you their names yet, but they're coming soon as well. They're negotiation stages of deals with them. So it's fun to see that a lot of people are getting on board, and like the manufacturers want people to use their repair procedures, and they recognize the challenges that exist today and the gaps. So does that help answer that question?
It does.
And yeah, I'll give you my direct email. I'd love to chat to in more depth if there's certain vehicles that you're not finding. That's always helpful for us to say. Everything we do, everything we build into Repair Logic is driven off of like customer feedback, right? So if it's new features we're adding, if it's how to prioritize which vehicles come next, it's all based on customer feedback. So please reach out and share that information with me, and I can get it to the right people on our team. So
cool.
and I'm going to share my email and phone, so you guys can grab it real quick and have a way to reach out, not just like, that's cool, he said call me, but he didn't give me his phone number. There you go. You see that? That's phone number, email address. So definitely reach out. I'd love to answer any more questions that you got, or show you another demo, or run through one of your estimates at your shop and see how it works, and pull your technicians in, your repair planners, blueprinters, estimators, whatever you got. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Taylor, I appreciate your time and you taking the time out to be on here. It was good seeing you again.
Absolutely.
With that, we'll bid you a fair night. I can't even talk. It's been such a long day. Guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time to be on here tonight. And hopefully we'll see y'all again in 2024. So we appreciate it. Everybody have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your week.